So what are these 19 keys? Do you have 19? Are they like a pillar? What is one of those keys?
So 19 keys is not a finite number. The number 19 represents 1 through 9, so it represents all numbers,
Okay.
right? But when we talk about the 19 keys, they're principles of living, right? Living through truth and enlightenment and reaching one's highest self. And so one of them is, I always like to go by this code: accomplish what you will, right? There's a lot of men today who aren't willful, right? They live in the bubble of potential, in their imagination, thinking that's enough, but they don't actually have the ability to challenge themselves, to get out that comfort zone,
Yeah.
and to take a thought that's inside their mind and then produce it in reality through execution by means of their skills, their gifts, their talents, right? And so I think we have a generation that is, very backwards and reverse minded right now. Right. So my goal,
Reverse minded.
yeah. So if you look at a young boy today, he's more into his feminine energy than his masculine energy.
I've heard you talk about this on your
Yeah,
podcast. You
because it's
just did an
true.
episode not too long ago about this.
Absolutely. I think the whole world sees it, right? The whole world knows it, right? We're not in the era of our fathers. We're not in the era of our grandfathers. And there was a particular time where, yes, we definitely need that correction and healing to get that balance of our feminine sides. But some of us went so far over that they're now out of touch with their masculine side. So when I say seek challenge, not comfort, it's because as a man, when you seek challenge, then that's when you feel you're living your purpose.
Yeah.
There is a part of the brain, it's called the mid-cingulate cortex, and it's the area of the brain that is responsible for the seat of willpower. So basically, when you do what you hate, that area of the brain grows, it expands. It also increases your will to live. One of the issues that we have specifically with black men is suicide rates and depression rates are very high.
Yeah.
Right? So that willfulness to say be and it is, I'm gonna tell myself to do something and I'm gonna go from A to B step by step and get it all the way done. Right? I'm able to produce and manufacture right for myself and I can manage myself to get things done in reality. If you are claimed to be a man, that means your mind works because man is mind. But if your mind can't take ideas that's in here that you're thinking about and bring them here, then how can you prove that you're a man, that your mind works?
So how have you been able to move yourself into this very masculine space? Because you obviously have had some challenges along the way because you
Yeah, a
were
lot of 'em.
you had some run-ins with the law. You had some moments where I'm sure that you weren't operating in your highest potential.
For sure.
And so where was the shift and what were the steps that you took to shift into this very masculine, bravado and persona that we've come to know on the internet?
And I don't even think it's so much of shifting into a masculine bravado or persona. It's just me being myself, right? I think that when I was younger, I grew up in the FOI. So we used to get a certain training. It's the foundation that matters.
Yeah.
These were my rites of passage, right? Without rites of passage, then you don't break that barrier of belief to go to that next stage.
Yeah.
And throughout time, coaches have always had rites of passage because they
Yeah.
understand that the child has to break the dependency mind, right? From being in the protected womb of the mother, right? Figuratively, or under the protection of the father. And they have to believe that they can now prepare themselves for the world. Right? You can fend for yourself. You can fight for yourself. You can speak for yourself. You can think for yourself. So when I was younger, I went through all of these circumstances to where I was able to prove to myself that, I can do this.
Yeah.
So therefore, I didn't have any of those handicaps. I think it starts with your needs, right? We have particular needs: growth, contribution, community, right? Significance.
Yeah.
Now, in the household, if you grew up right, then all those needs will be fulfilled, right? Somebody told you and they expressed to you how much they love you. You're a part of a family that gives you community. You're able to develop value to contribute in the household in some sort of way, right? They give consistent, gratitude towards your efforts, so
Yeah.
you feel significant. But if you don't have that and you grow up like most people that have adverse childhood experiences, then you seek significance too much, right? Or you may seek community too much, right? When the real focus should be growth.
So this is like the extension of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes, but in a very practical way. Because if you look at it today, the reason people cannot collaborate, right? Because they're so busy trying to be more significant than the person that they sitting across from. So therefore, I need to compete with you versus to figure out how we can create a cooperation. But if you really focus on, all right, what is my primary need, and you filter your thoughts through that, which should be growth, because then you will develop the skills, you will learn, and then what you learn, you will use that to contribute to the community you are part of, which gives you significance.
Yeah.
But most people have it reversed. They think their significance is the contribution to the community, right? So therefore, we have a very inverse reality where people are walking around backwards. So everybody is competing. Everybody is an individual, and there's an egoistic atmosphere that's happening. So we have to go into a sphere where, number one, you have knowledge of self. You develop yourself and say, how can I contribute my gifts, my talents, my skills to the community? And then how can that give me significance? It's a very simplistic thing because most of our solutions are simple.
So you are very community based, right? You believe in building community. And did that really come from you growing up in the Nation of Islam and you being a member of FOI and kind of learning these manhood principles early on?
I think it came from me having a large family.
Okay.
Right. So I have 6 brothers, 2 sisters. Right. And, growing up in a household, being in the middle of that, I know what it's like to be a younger brother and an older brother. Right. So I think that that's where that particular understanding comes from. Like, I've always wanted to work with them, but we all are in different lanes and we have different mindsets. So not being able to form that community with them and do business at an early age, then I said, okay, I'm going to show y'all how to collaborate. So then I would start creating these other groups and bringing them together and start building with them. So I believe it started in the household because my mother and my father instilled those principles. Right, the FOI is where I got my discipline from, where I got my more militant side.
Yeah.
But it was 2 different sides that I seen. The side where my mother was in, she was in the more where it's based on virtues and values, right, and principles. My father was on the more gangster side. It was more militant.
Yeah.
So I seen both sides of what's necessary because I seen one side fall, right, because the men with power also became corrupt at particular points in time.
It was at the story of your father?
Yeah, that was in Oakland.
Right, because y'all were catching a case at the same time, right? Y'all was a part.
Those are stems of extensions of things. That's later down the documentary story. Yeah, I've lived a very interesting life that most people would be surprised from. But
what would be the thing that would surprise most people?
Well, there's a lot of details. I think growing up in Oakland, California, we grew up in a very militant Muslim environment, right? So
it's the home of the Black Panthers.
Yeah, but it's the home of a story of Your Black Muslim Bakery, where it was an operation that ran for 40 plus years. So you got to imagine walking outside and you seeing 100 black men in suits jumping out and drilling in front of your house, right? But then your son can go there and get a job and get some discipline and some training. Then they also have a school. They also have health services, right? Mm-hmm. They also have a security program, right? So this was the environment where I seen black men with money. It'd be a motorcade of all black cars, Benzes, GMC trucks, the whole 9. And this was a movement based on consciousness, militant discipline, and economic, right, independence. So seeing that at a young age, my paradigm shifted to what was possible. But then we lived in the streets. Like, we still, from St. Louis to Oakland, we grew up in the duality of both environments, right? So my family, particularly the Muhammad's, we was a little separate, right? We had our own names and our own thing going. My older brother, he was in the streets. My father been a street guerrilla warfare militant general, right? But then at the same time, it's all of these nuances of life that you can't teach people, right? It's all of these different experiences that you go through that you realize that was constantly preparing you and giving you different perspectives.
Hey, Vault family, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, make sure to check out our full interview on our channel at Vault Empowers Talks. We don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential leaders and change makers. Don't forget to like, to comment, and be sure to subscribe for more inspiring conversations. See you next time.